Your alarm went off this morning. Maybe you snoozed it once. Maybe 3 times. Maybe you lay there for a few minutes staring at the ceiling before the second alarm you set as a backup went off, and you actually got up. You have probably never once thought about what an extraordinary piece of infrastructure that is. A device that monitors time continuously while you are unconscious and triggers a specific response at a specific moment so that you do not miss the thing you need to do. For 300,000 years, none of that existed. No alarm. No clock. No candle marked with hours. No rooster you could depend on. No church bell, just a sleeping human, in darkness, needing to wake up at a particular time, with nothing between them and that requirement except whatever was happening inside their own body. And they woke up anyway. Not occasionally. Not by accident. Reliably, consistently, at the right time for what the day required. And the system that made that possible is still running inside you right now. Quietly, underneath every alarm you have ever set, doing work you have never once had to think about. Here is what it actually is. Start with the most fundamental piece. The human body has a clock. Not a metaphorical clock. A literal molecular timekeeping mechanism running inside nearly every cell in your body simultaneously, regulated by a set of genes that cycle through activation and suppression on a rhythm of approximately 24 hours. This system is called the circadian clock, and it was discovered with enough precision that the researchers who mapped its molecular mechanism, Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael Young, received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2017. The clock works through a feedback loop. Certain proteins accumulate in the cell over several hours, then inhibit their own production once they reach a threshold concentration, then degrade. Then the cycle begins again. This oscillation is remarkably stable. Left entirely in the dark, with no external time cues whatsoever, the human circadian clock drifts only slightly from a 24-hour period, usually running somewhere between 24 and 25 hours. The mechanism is ancient. Versions of it appear in organisms as distant from humans as fruit flies and cyanobacteria. It evolved not to help you catch a morning meeting. It evolved because in a world governed by the rotation of the Earth, an organism that can predict dawn has an enormous survival advantage over one that simply reacts to it. Think about what that distinction means in practice. An animal that reacts to dawn is always behind. It wakes when the light arrives and then begins preparing its body for the demands of the day. An animal that predicts dawn wakes ahead of the light, already prepared, already alert, already functional before the sun has cleared the horizon. In a world where the first hours of daylight determined whether you ate or went hungry, that head start was not a comfort feature. It was a survival edge measured in calories and safety. Predicting dawn is not the same as reacting to dawn. Reacting to dawn means your body starts preparing for wakefulness when the light arrives. Predicting dawn means your body starts preparing for wakefulness before the light arrives. Body temperature begins rising roughly 90 minutes before you would naturally wake. Cortisol, which mobilizes energy and sharpens alertness, begins surging into the bloodstream an hour or two before waking in what researchers call the cortisol awakening response. The digestive system begins activating. Blood pressure starts climbing. The immune system shifts its activity pattern. By the time ancient humans opened their eyes, their bodies had been preparing for the transition for hours. They did not wake up and then become alert. They became alert, gradually and automatically, and then woke up. But the circadian clock needs something to keep it synchronized to the actual solar day. Left completely isolated, it drifts, which over days and weeks would pull sleep timing progressively out of alignment with the sun. The synchronizing signal is light, specifically the blue wavelength light present in outdoor daylight. And it acts through a specific set of cells in the eye called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, which connect directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus, the master pacemaker of the circadian system. Ancient humans slept outside, or in structures with minimal light barriers. Their eyes were exposed to the full spectrum of dawn light the moment the sky began to lighten, and that light reset the clock every single morning with a precision no alarm can match. This is not a minor point. The synchronizing signal was not just bright. It was spectrally rich in exactly the wavelengths the retinal ganglion cells are most sensitive to, delivered at precisely the moment the body needed calibration across the full surface area of the open sky. Modern humans wake to a phone screen or a blackout curtain and an artificial tone. Ancient humans woke to the sky, turning from black to deep blue to gray to pink, while their photosensitive retinal cells fed that exact progression directly into the brain's timekeeping system. The alarm was not external. It was written into the architecture of the eye. But light alone does not fully explain how ancient humans woke at the right time for what they needed to do. Because the right time was not always the same time. A hunter who needed to be positioned before dawn to intercept prey at a water source needed to wake earlier than someone whose task was gathering food from a nearby area later in the morning. Social coordination, seasonal shifts in day length, the demands of particular activities across the year, all of these required something more flexible than a fixed biological cycle. Here the evidence gets more layered and the picture more complicated. Some researchers studying pre-industrial populations have proposed that humans historically did not sleep in a single unbroken block, but in two phases, with a period of quiet wakefulness in between, typically lasting 1 to 2 hours, falling in the middle of the night. The historian, A. Roger Ekirk documented this pattern through pre-industrial European written sources spanning roughly the last 1,000 years, and similar patterns have been noted in some communities with minimal artificial light exposure. Other researchers, including Jerome Siegel and colleagues who studied contemporary hunter-gatherer groups such as the Hadza, the San, and the Samane, found predominantly single-block sleep with daytime napping rather than classic biphasic night sleep. The picture is not settled. What does seem consistent across both lines of research is that ancient sleep was more flexible, more socially embedded, and more responsive to environmental conditions than the rigid 8-hour block modern schedules demand. What is clear is that during any period of wakefulness between sleep phases, whether brief or extended, people were not fully alert, but in a state of calm, low-arousal consciousness. They might tend the fire, check on children, talk quietly, or simply lie still. In many environments, fire maintenance was not trivial. A fire that died overnight could mean cold, darkness, and exposure to predators. Keeping one body in the group lightly wakeful through the coldest hours of the night served multiple functions simultaneously: warmth, safety, and the natural coordination of when the group would rise. This natural rhythm of lighter and deeper sleep phases is also when social coordination of waking times could happen. A group sleeping together in a shared space could align their movement toward wakefulness to what the day required. The biology provided the window. The social group used it. There is one more element that the modern bedroom has removed almost completely from this picture: smell and sound. Ancient humans waking in an outdoor or semi-outdoor environment did not wake into silence and neutral air. They woke into a soundscape that had been shifting for hours. Insects giving way to birds, nocturnal animals falling quiet, wind patterns changing with the temperature differential of early morning. They woke into air that smelled of damp soil and cooling ash and the particular quality of pre-dawn cold. These were not background details. They were additional synchronizing signals, reinforcing what the light and the circadian clock were already communicating. The body woke into an environment that was unambiguously telling it what time it was from every direction at once. That convergence is what modern alarm culture has dismantled. When an alarm fires during deep sleep, which it frequently does because modern sleep timing is poorly aligned with circadian biology for most people, it interrupts the natural progression and forces wakefulness before the body is ready for it. The grogginess many people feel in the morning, the reaching for the phone before the eyes have focused, the requirement for caffeine before any cognitive function feels accessible, none of this is a feature of waking up. It is a feature of being woken up incorrectly. The ancient human woke when the body had finished sleeping. The light confirmed the time. The social group provided the coordination. The cortisol was already in the bloodstream. The temperature was already climbing. The transition was already underway. No alarm required. The next time yours goes off, understand what you are actually feeling in that moment. That disorientation, that resistance, that specific misery of being pulled out of sleep before sleep has released you is not a universal human experience. It is a modern one. It is what happens when you replace a system 300,000 years in the making with a rectangle that beeps. The body still has the clock. It still runs the cortisol surge. It still sends the synchronizing signal from eye to hypothalamus every morning. It is still trying to wake you the way it always has. You just keep interrupting it before it finishes.